So good morning students. We'll be discussing the liver today. In fact, my work has become very simple because you've already had a demonstration on the liver yesterday and a revision of the peritoneal reflections which was shown yesterday. So I'll try to explain whatever I can to make it easier. So we will cover the liver according to the competencies laid down by MCI, which will be the anatomical position, that's the location of the liver, the external features, internal features. Most of it will be done in histology, but I will just briefly touch upon this. The peritoneal folds, relations, blood supply, nerve supply, lymphatics, and the applied aspect. Before we go on to the study of liver, I would like to tell you a story about Prometheus, the Greek god. Prometheus was known to steal fire and give it to mankind. He did this from the kingdom of Zeus. Zeus was the king and he got very angry with Prometheus, so he was punished. So they took him far away from the village and tied him with iron shackles onto a cliff. Every day, Prometheus' emblem, that's an eagle, would be sent to eat Prometheus' liver. The eagle would eat the liver, and next day the liver would regenerate. So the eagle would go the next day and again eat up the new liver. That gave the basis that liver can regenerate. The very fact that liver tissue can regenerate is a basic fact, interesting topic in biomedical research, by which tissue cultures are done, and this study has encouraged tissue transplantation. A recipient can receive tissue from a donor in which partial liver can also be used. One doesn't need to have the full liver as a donation. A partial liver donation is also equally useful for the survival of patients who are having sustaining hepatic coma, which is incompatible to life. Liver is an essential organ. Its function is in various metabolic activities. It regulates the blood glucose, the lipids, breakdowns amino acids, storage of vitamins, irons and micronutrients, helps in breakdown of toxins, and also helps in phagocytosis by macrophages. In fetal life, liver is an important site of hematopoiesis. Liver is an essential organ, essential for life. Without liver, life is incompatible. So let's see anatomically where the liver is located. It's located in the upper part of the abdominal cavity, extending into the right hypochondrium. The complete right hypochondrium is occupied by the liver. The epigastrium and the left hypochondrium up to the midclavicular line till the 8th intercostal space. So it almost occupies the entire upper abdominal cavity in the right side and part of the left hypochondrium on the left. If we want to see, the diagram on the right shows you the surface anatomy of liver. The surface presentation of the liver is triangular. When one asks you to draw the surface marking, you have to take 2 points just below the nipple, which is around the 5th intercostal space, join to these two lines by a horizontal line, and from the right nipple down, draw a vertical line up to the 10th intercostal space. Then one has to meet the lower point in the 10th intercostal space on the right to the left point, which is just below the nipple, thereby getting a triangular area, and this area that we have is the surface marking of the liver. So the extent, when we see it in relation to the rib cage, it extends on the right up from fourth intercostal space. On the left it's near the fifth rib with a slight median depression. On the right it goes up to the 10th rib and follows the subcostal margin, the 10th, the 10th, the 9th and the 8th rib, and from there it is in the epigastrium region. It would be about a hand's breadth down the xiphisternal joint and then goes up to the left side from the 7th, the 6th and the 5th rib at the mid-clavicular point. So that's the location of the liver. As you can see, it's a wedge-shaped structure that you can appreciate out here. So once the rib cage has been removed, the anterior abdominal wall muscles have been removed, and one enters the peritoneal cavity, one would see the liver nicely placed under the diaphragm, the right lobe and the left lobe of the diaphragm, as a wedge-shaped large organ of the body. It is the largest organ in the body, which is reddish and brown color in normal healthy adults. In case of disease conditions where there is fat deposition, it can get a whitish color or a yellowish color. Occupies 2% of body mass in adults, while in children it occupies almost 5% of body mass. The entire upper abdomen in children is occupied by the liver. In fact, it also occupies the part of the left hypochondrium, but in adults it actually starts regressing. Therefore, the left lobe is smaller in comparison to the right lobe. The liver is enclosed by a thin layer of connective tissue, which is called the Glissen's capsule. This maintains the integrity of this pliable structure, the liver. It's pliable because it mostly has hepatocytes with number of blood-filled spaces in it. The right lobe of the liver is palpable along the right costal margin in deep inspiration. But in cases where the liver is enlarged, one can feel the liver below the costal margin. Sometimes in children and in women it is slightly larger in size. An increased size liver is called hepatomegaly. Just next to the liver on the left hypochondrium lies the stomach, and you can see the rest of the abdominal cavity is all covered by peritoneum, the greater omentum and the transverse mesocolon. So gradually as we go down, we will be seeing the features. So now let's see the in situ relations of the liver. Once the anteroabdominal wall has been removed, the rib cages have been removed, one sees the right and the left lobe of the liver. That's the liver occupying the entire upper abdominal cavity, the right hypochondrium, part of the epigastrium and the left hypochondrium. A thin sheet of peritoneal fold, double layered peritoneal fold called the falciform ligament, runs from the posterior surface of the anterior abdominal wall and cuts the liver into two, the right lobe and the left lobe. This falciform ligament, as it divides, it covers both the surfaces, the anterior surface and the superior surface of the right lobe and the anterior and superior surface of the left lobe of the liver, forming the coronary ligaments, which have been discussed already. The inferior margin of the falciform ligament is cord-like, in which lies the round ligament of the liver, which is also called the ligamentum teres hepatis. This is a remnant of the obliterated left umbilical vein, which is carrying blood, oxygenated blood from the placenta to the left portal vein during intrauterine life. The right lobe of the liver is related to the concavity of the right dome of the diaphragm, separating it from the right pleura and the right base of the lung, and the left dome of the diaphragm is separating the left lobe of the liver from the left pleura and the base of the left lung. The central depressed portion is called the cardiac impression, which is formed by the central tendon of the diaphragm, and here the liver is in relation with the superiorly above the central tendon to the heart and the pericardium. The inferior border, just at the subcostal margin at the tip of the ninth costal cartilage, one can see the fundus of the gallbladder peeping out. The stomach is present very close to the left lobe, showing its approximation, or we say relation, to the left lobe of the liver. The rest of the abdominal cavity, one can see only omentum, which are the part of the greater omentum, and this has been discussed already. Liver. Now when we look at the liver, after it's been removed from the abdominal cavity, we say that it's a triangular or a wedge-shaped structure. It has certain borders and surfaces. The borders are not very distinct, excepting the inferior border, which is separating the anterior surface from the inferior surface. These two pictures that you see out here, the first picture on top is showing you the superior surface of the liver as we see it from the top. The right side and the left side, both of them have been separated by a thin layer of ligament, that's the falciform ligament, which is a two-layer ligament, and it splays over the right side of the liver and the left side of the liver, covering the entire superior surface. As it goes superiorly onto the right side of the liver, it forms a ligament which is called the superior layer of the coronary ligament, and this layer goes and gets reflected onto the diaphragm. On the left side, it's called the anterior layer of the left coronary ligament. The anterior surface is the lower picture, where we have the superior surface, the anterior surface and the right surface are actually all together. They form a single surface which we can say or designate as the diaphragmatic surface. There are no close, clear borders to demarcate them. It's only because of their contour that one says the one which is present on the superior side, we say it's the superior surface, one which we visualize from the anterior side, we call it the anterior surface, and the one which is on the right side of the costal margin, we call it the lateral surface. But actually they all fit into the dome of the diaphragm, the concavity of the dome of the diaphragm. Now if you look very carefully, in the center you find that between the right lobe and the left lobe, there is a slight concavity on the superior border, and this concavity is due to the convexity of the vertebral column, leading to this kind of an impression. The superior layer of the coronary ligament is visible, and there is an inferior layer of the coronary ligament, and both of them on the lateral side of the right dome of the liver would be fusing to form the right triangular ligament, and similarly the right coronary and the left coronary will fuse at the end to form the left triangular ligament. So to relieve the liver, one has to incise on these two ligaments. The anterior surface is only related to the diaphragm and the anterior abdominal wall in the center. Sometimes one can find a lobe of the hepatic flexure in the transverse colon coming in front of the anterior surface. It's a rare occurrence, sometimes happens, which is called the Chilaiditi syndrome. The posterior surface and the inferior surface are also called the visceral surface, because here the contour of the liver is not as smooth as the diaphragmatic surface which we saw in the superior, anterior and the lateral surface. In fact, it's a wedge with impressions of the nearby viscera which have form their impressions. The posterior surface is such that it separates the superior surface from the posterior surface, and you see the inferior vena cava embedded in the posterior surface. So to identify or hold the liver in anatomical position, one should see that the inferior vena cava is actually perpendicular to the horizontal plane. It is embedded in the substance of the liver. Right to the inferior vena cava is the renal impression, is an area which is devoid of peritoneum. In fact, in this surface one sees very clearly the superior layer of the coronary ligament and the inferior layer of the coronary ligament, and the fusion of the two at the apex of a area which is devoid of peritoneum, which is called the bare area of the liver. This area of the liver comes in direct contact with the diaphragm with some loose areolar tissue or some fat tissue, but there is connective tissue, but there is no peritoneum in this. It comes in direct contact with the diaphragm. This right triangular ligament is one of the supports of the liver, and on the left side one can see that there is the left of the inferior vena cava. On the superior part there is a small lobe which is called the caudate lobe. This caudate lobe is a part of the liver which is bounded by the inferior vena cava on the right and another fissure on the left, which is called the fissure for the ligamentum venosum, which has the remnant of the ductus venosus. The ductus venosus. So, and below that is the hilum of the liver. If you look at the inferior surface has the hilum of the liver. One can see very clearly there is the fossa of the gallbladder, where the gallbladder lies, and just lateral to the fossa of the gallbladder on the left side lies the quadrangular liver lobe, which is called the quadrate liver lobe, and this quadrate lobe is separated from the rest of the left lobe by another fissure, which is called the fissure from the ligamentum teres. So the fissure from the ligamentum teres superiorly is in continuity with the fissure for the ligamentum venosum, and we have the peritoneum which is present in the ligamentum venosum coming and encircling the hilum of the liver, which is called the porta hepatis, where structures enter and leave the liver through this hilum, which is called the porta hepatis. Number of important structures will be related to it, which I will be doing in the subsequent slide. So the relations of the liver from the external surface. On the superior surface, as we all know, it's the dome of the diaphragm, separating it from the right base of the lung and the pleura, the costa, and in the center it's the central tendon with the pericardium and the cardiac impression. On the left it's the left diaphragm with the base of the left lung and pleura. On the anterior surface, if we go, the upper part has the upper two spaces have the base of the left lung, lower two spaces have the pleura of the right side, and below that there is the costal diaphragmatic recess. So anytime one wants to do a liver biopsy, one would always prefer to go below the ninth space so that one doesn't go into the pleural cavity or doesn't even enter the lungs. If you look at the inferior surface, the posterior surface, there is a gastric impression just lateral to the caudate lobe is the ductus venosus, and one can see the esophageal impression, and the gastric impression is on the lower part and has the pylorus. There is the quadrate lobe, the fossa for the gallbladder, there is the suprarenal and the renal impression. The suprarenal and renal impression are more visible on the inferior surface, where there is the gastric impression, the fundus, we have the gastric esophagus, the gastric impression, the pyloric impression. This is for the duodenal impression, the renal impression and the suprarenal impression. So these are present in the inferior surface, and with that we go on to the neck surface. So the supports of the liver and the folds of peritoneum. So the main support of the liver is the hepatic veins draining into the inferior vena cava. As the inferior vena cava passes through the substance of the liver, we see that the three hepatic veins come and enter the liver, thereby giving it a solid anchor by which the liver is maintained. The tone of the abdominal muscles and the diaphragm keep it in place. Along with that, the folds of the peritoneum, like the falciform ligament, the ligamentum venosum, the round ligament, the coronary ligaments, the right and left triangular ligaments, and the lesser omentum are all the folds of peritoneum which help and support the liver in its position. So to remove the liver or to mobilize the liver, one has to cut the triangular ligaments, give an incision on the inferior vena cava, and then loose to remove it. So with this, we have already done the peritoneal reflection. This is just a short revision to show you that the liver is related on the left side to the stomach. The quadrate lobe has the pylorus, and then you have the duodenal part, first part of the duodenum related to it, with the lesser omentum coming from the porta hepatis to the lesser curvature of the stomach. So if we just open it like a book and remove the peritoneum, the liver, then what's left? On the posterior surface, one sees the bare area of the liver, which is bounded by the superior and inferior layer of the coronary ligament, and the base is formed by the IVC. So one would like to enumerate the bare areas of the liver, which are the bare area, the fossa for the gallbladder, the fissure for the ligamentum venosum, the porta hepatis, and the fissure for the ligamentum teres. Between the right and the left coronary ligament also there is a bare. I am not talking about the small bare areas which have been mentioned in your books. You can learn them later. Now the hilum of the porta hepatis is called the porta hepatis, where structures leave and enter the liver. So the structures which enter would be the hepatic artery and the portal vein. The structures which will leave would be the bile duct. The bile duct which is leaving would be the right and left bile duct, which unites to form the common hepatic duct. So these are the structures which are present in the hilum, and they are all present in a fold of lesser omentum which comes onto the stomach. The part of the peritoneum which is present covering the renal surface comes onto the anterior surface of the kidney and forms a pouch out here which is called the Morison's pouch. So this shows you the bare area of the liver. So the bare area you can see very clearly that has a superior layer of the coronary ligament, inferior layer of the coronary ligament, apex is formed by the right triangular ligament, and the base is formed by the inferior vena cava. The fissure for the falciform ligament also is a bare area. So the lesser omentum is from the porta hepatis to the lesser curvature of the stomach, and from there we have the greater momentum coming from the greater curvature of the stomach, which you have already done before. So I'm not going to go into detail about that. But on the inferior surface of the liver, the porta hepatis, there is a space which in fact is called the epiploic foramen, which has in which only 2 fingers can enter. It shows you the entry from the lesser sac to the greater sac. This has, the boundary is such that the superior border is formed by the caudate lobe of the liver. The inferior surface is by the first part of the duodenum. The posteriorly it's by the inferior vena cava, and anteriorly lies the free margin of the lesser omentum, in which there is the structures present in the porta hepatis, which are the bile duct, the hepatic artery, and the portal vein. These are the structures: the hepatic artery in the center, the portal vein anteriorly, and the bile duct more to the right. So that's what it is. This is again showing a picture of the lesser curvature and the liver to show you how the structures pass from the lesser curvature into the hilum of the liver. And posterior abdominal wall, you can see the 2 major vessels on the left. It's the aorta, abdominal aorta, and on the right lies the IVC. Once the liver is removed, one sees the liver bed. So the liver bed is actually formed by the dome of the diaphragm, the IVC, the fundus of the stomach, the cardiac and the fundus of the stomach, the right crura of the diaphragm, the kidney, right kidney, and the right suprarenal. These are the main structures which are forming the liver bed. So the number of potential spaces around the liver, since it is covered by peritoneum and such places, some places it's not, but there are potential spaces just below the diaphragm, which are the subphrenic spaces. Just below the liver, they are called the subhepatic spaces, and sometimes these spaces are closed spaces because of the disposition of the peritoneum. But on the right side, because of the right side liver coming in relation to the kidney, there is a pouch out here which is called the Morison's pouch or the hepatorenal pouch. The most dependent area of the liver. So when the person is supine, it will come to the posterior part. When the person is erect, it will go to the lower part of the pelvic cavity. The liver is divided into certain segments, or we say sectors, by fissures, and these fissures are mainly the inferior vena cava, into which open the hepatic veins. There are 3 sets of hepatic veins: the main hepatic vein, the right hepatic vein, and the left hepatic vein. These veins are the ones which divide the liver into sectors or segments. The main one divides the liver into such that on the left of this lies segment 4, on the right of it lies segment 5 and segment 8. The main hepatic fissure or the main portal fissure extends from the tip of the gallbladder to the center point of the IVC, and it contains the middle hepatic vein, as you saw in the previous picture. This separates the liver into a right lobe and a left lobe, or we say hemilivers. Segment 5 and 8 lie to the right, while segment 4 to the left, which I showed you in the previous picture. 5 and 8, and this is segment 4, is lying to the left. The umbilical fissure separates segment 3 from segment 4 within the anterior sector, contains the main branch of the hepatic vein, and it's marked by the attachment of the falciform ligament, This area is actually avascular and can be divided safely, essential when splitting the liver for an adult or pediatric recipient. So when one does liver transplant, they try to cut against the falciform ligament because it's an avascular area. The portal veins are segmental. So from the portal triad, that's from the hilum, porta hepatis, the portal veins would be entering and they would be going to each and every segment. So portal vein is a vein which is formed by the superior mesenteric and splenic vein behind the neck of the pancreas. It's about 8 centimeters long and supplies each segment along with the hepatic artery and bile duct. The hepatic artery is a branch of the celiac trunk, branches into the gastroduodenal and hepatic artery proper. The hepatic artery proper divides into right and left branch to supply the liver segments along with the portal vein and the branch of the bile duct. So hepatic veins are intersegmental. So sections, when liver sections, resections have to be done, they have to be done along the hepatic veins which are intersegmental, and the portal veins are segmental. Each portal segment has its own portal radicle, that means it has its own portal vein, it has its own portal hepatic artery, and it has its own bile duct. They go together to each hepatic segment, while the segments are separated from each other by the hepatic veins, which are the right hepatic vein, the left hepatic vein, and the middle hepatic vein, which lies in the portal fissure. So this is the segmental distribution of the portal vein, hepatic artery, and the bile duct. As you can see, the main hepatic duct is in the center. The right and the left are away. So the right portal sector, obviously the right hepatic vein which is present, and this is the left hepatic vein. So how do we demarcate these? This is the portal fissure, which is from the tip of the gallbladder to the center of the IVC. It's the portal sector. The left one is between the left triangular ligament and the falciform ligament. If you take a midpoint of that and take a diagonal line up to the confluence between the IVC and the left hepatic vein, it would be the left segment, while the right segment is a more oblique plane because the right lobe is a very thick lobe. So it crosses diagonally from the right edge onto the confluence between the hepatic vein and the right hepatic vein, the inferior vena cava and the right hepatic vein. And this is such that the liver has been, by the main hepatic vein, is divided into a right hemiliver and a left hemiliver. The right hemiliver has segments which are 5 and 8, which are the medial most, and the lateral most are the 6 and 7, or they are called the posterolateral and the anteromedial segments, while on the left hemilobe it's called the medial segment and the lateral segment. The medial segment is segment 4, sometimes called as 4A and 4B, and the lateral segment is called segment 2 and segment 3. The caudate lobe is the one which is called as segment 1. So from these diagrams, schematic diagrams, one can make out that there is segmentation of the liver is such that the liver, for the first is caudate, which is not visible from this, but it is going in an anti-clockwise direction where we have 2, 3, 4. Then we have 2, 3, 4 which are on the right side, and then it's 5, 6, 7, 8 which is on the right lobe. So one has to just see it's segment 2, segment 3, segment 4, this is the left lobe, and segment 5, 6, 7 and 8 goes in an anti-clockwise direction. Similarly, if we see it from the posterior surface, we say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, while 1 is the caudate lobe. And in the inferior surface also it's saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 is on the anterior surface, and we have 8 which is more on the anterior surface. So this gives us a more clear view of the segments of the liver, where you can see the liver demarcation. It's a color coded picture showing you in a better perspective the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth and the seventh and the eighth segments. And from the posterior view we again have the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which goes in an anti-clockwise direction. These segments are called the surgical segments of the liver, and it was laid down by Coiner, a French surgeon. Initially it was all believed that the portal hepatic segments were based on the division of the bile duct, which for many years the conventional anatomists used to believe it's the bile duct which is the one which is forming the radicals, the portal radicals, and the bile duct are the ones which are responsible for this segmentation. But it's only when liver resection became important it was understood that it is the hepatic veins which are the ones responsible for the segmentation, while the bile duct, hepatic artery and portal vein are present in each segment. Therefore, when we remove one segment of the liver, supposing we want to remove the segment 7, we are not going to disturb the portal radicals of segment 8 or 6. They are going to be intact. Thereby it becomes easy for hepatic resections and also transplant surgery. When we look at the applied aspect of the liver, the most common conditions that patients suffer from are amoebic liver abscess. In India, amoebic liver abscess is a very common condition where they have abscesses in the liver because of amoebiasis, a common condition which is seen in Indian population. So sometimes one has to do a needle puncture for that, or it can be due to liver cirrhosis, where there is a fatty liver which is there in chronic alcoholism, mostly due to chronic alcoholism, but sometimes it can be present when patients without alcoholic intake. So one has to do a needle puncture to take a biopsy, so under local anesthesia. If it's a specific lesion, then it has to be done by an ultrasound guided. Otherwise, the conventional site is the 10th intercostal space in the mid-axillary line. During expiration, you have to tell the patient to hold his breath, and then part of the liver tissue is taken out and biopsied to see what is the condition. The lymphatics of the liver are the hepatic nodes, pericaval nodes along the inferior vena cava, and paracardiac nodes. It depends upon where they are, and also some of them go to the celiac nodes. It's actually the lymph from this liver passes through the upper and lower nodes around the diaphragm. If there is any obstruction, usually in the hepatic veins, lymph goes directly to the thoracic duct. Nerve supply of the liver is by hepatic plexus, which has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic from the vagus, anterior and posterior vagal plexuses, which are part of the celiac plexus. They enter along with the blood vessels from the hilum. The diaphragmatic surface also has a dual supply from the intercostal nerves. Pain from the liver parenchyma is poorly localized. It's in the epigastrium, as it happens with all the derivatives of foregut. Foregut derivatives are all from they have a very dull, poor localized where the patient says that he has an epigastric pain. Stretch of the liver capsule rapidly produces a well localized or somatic pain when there is due to trauma or some other injury, when there is a localized. So in summary, we have to understand where the location is, the surface marking, the surface borders and relations, the peritoneal folds, what are the bare areas of the liver. So these are the exercises, please try to do them. The blood supply and the lymphatic drainage, nerve supply, and applied anatomy will be giving you some STL, so please do them in your books. This is hepatic lobe, the microstructure. You have already had a class on the hepatic lobules, which is the classical liver lobule, the portal lobules, the liver acinus. So the functional unit of the liver is hepatocytes. They get affected in cirrhosis, causing fatty liver, can have hepatocellular carcinoma and liver abscesses. These are the few conditions which I have laid down. Besides that, there are many more. And thank you very much for your patient hearing.